Picking up where we left off, we're still talking about subqueries, and now we're going to use them to accomplish something we couldn't accomplish earlier. You may remember this query, where we used our double joins to produce a max data purchase and to sum the amounts by product type. But we weren't able to obtain the most recent data, so if we had phone number or email address, something we needed to keep up to date, this wouldn't be as useful as we needed it to be. Well, we're going to fix that with a subquery. In this case, instead of typing it, I'm going to paste it in just to save us some time, and then I'll explain it. We're going to take that same query, and we're simply throwing in this inner join right here. Now, an inner join is the same thing as a join. I'm just labeling it so that it can be visibly different. And within that join, we have this select statement. We're now selecting the max data purchase, and we're calling it last date. We're also selecting the name ID and the sum of the amounts of the totals. We're doing that from purchases, and then we're going to group by name and product ID. It looks a lot like what we were doing on the outside, but now we're doing it on the inside, and we're calling it submax, the subquery max values. Because we're doing it within the subquery now, we no longer need to select these in our external query. And we're going to join the results that we get from this query on purchase data purchase equals submax.latest date. So what that means is we're pulling out the data purchase just like we were before, but now we're only selecting from the table where that data purchase equals the max data purchase. That's giving us our most recent record. So when I run this, you can see that not only do we have our totals, and we have latest date here so we can use a comparison, but our latest date is also the date we're selecting with our other data. And you can see the product IDs and amounts have changed a little bit. That's because it's now showing the most recent record. This is a very common thing that you're going to need to do in your data because usually the most recent record is the one that's going to be the most important. Let's pop back over and talk about something we've seen a few times but never really went in depth on, and that's null values. Null is a representation of an empty piece of data. It means there's nothing there. However, because there's nothing there, null is not actually a value, and so it cannot be compared with a value operator such as equals. If you try to check if a column equals null, you're not going to get any results. However, because of this, null values have their own operators, and that is null or is not null. Let's see this really quick. We're back in our purchase table because you may remember we had a name ID that was null. Somehow this got entered for a purchase, but we don't know who it was that purchased it. And it's the perfect example for us. If we were looking for all the information in our data that didn't have a value, we might try to say where name ID equals null, because that's what we see represented in the table. But if we try to run this, we're not going to get anything out of it. It just gives us a bunch of empty values. The same thing happens if you try to say equals an empty string or 0. We're not actually getting the table place where the value is null. And that's because we need to use the command isNull. If we do that, then we get our product, P's, and we can see that it's missing the information. This is useful when trying to find information that needs updating. You can also use isNotNull in case you wanted to obtain all the information where you had all the pieces of data. And in this case, we no longer include P's in our list. We have only those that have all of the data we entered. That's enough for this video. In the next and final lesson, we will cover transactions and sequences. This has been brought to you by CreativeOnlineSchool.com.